Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the JP on Comms YouTube channel for a quick run through of what was quite an eventful supporters evening. I will get into all of the details in just a moment's time. We're going to have some very big news towards the end of this video as well regarding some of the stuff that went on at the supporters evening, so do stay tuned right to the very end. But we're going to kick things off, of course, with what seems to be one of the biggest announcements of the week in terms of new things going on around the club. And of course, I'm talking about the reveal of the brand new Maidstone United kit. So I'm going to put a Maidstone United kit picture somewhere on the screen. You'll be able to see that in its full glory. It's a very nice looking kit in all of the photographs, and I do think I'm going to be picking this one up. Pre-warning is a little bit more yellow than amber than the pictures suggest compared to real life, so make sure you get a look at it in person first, not to try and dissuade anybody from purchasing it, of course, but you know, you want to make sure you're getting what you expect when you invest in this brand new piece of merchandise from the club. However, I'm really happy with it. Seems the players had a really good reaction to it as well. Spoke to a couple of them down the ground at the under-23s game during the week and talked to them about the new kit. Hadn't seen it at this point, but did ask them if they preferred it to the previous season's one, and they seem to. So as long as they're happy playing in it, of course, that doesn't make a big difference, but I'm sure many of us are warming to it as well and do like it from the off. So hopefully we'll see many of those around the ground next season. Of course, as well, another thing we're going to be talking about in this video is something that I find really, really important, something that has been spoken about quite a lot recently. Of course, that is a new squad and the new signings. We did get to meet every single one of the new signings last night, I do believe, and everybody had a really good reaction to them. Lots and lots and lots of support at the supporters evening, really good turnout, but everybody's showing the love for the new boys, and hopefully they understand what it's like to be part of Maidstone United already. Of course, the supporters evening is quite a big event in the calendar, you know, the kind of first get together of the season before the pre-season starts tomorrow from when you'll be seeing this video. But for them, this is really their first impression, and I like to think that we did a good job as a supporter base, at least representing the general fan base of the supporters evening last night. So hopefully the new players feel welcomed. I certainly look forward to seeing them play throughout pre-season and of course in the upcoming campaign too. So on to the first big ticket thing for me, at least, that of course we weren't necessarily expecting from this supporters evening. The first thing, of course, is going to be brand new signings, but the way we're going about them, and that new strategy that we've got in place was spoken about last night by both George Edakobi, Oliver Ash mainly, but Terry Casey also did have a part to say too. Now, in the past, it does seem that Maidstone have primarily used quite a restricted kind of scouting method for their incomings, have kind of had a few panic buys, a few kind of favours done from other teams in terms of, you know, ringing up someone we might know and using a contact as kind of a last-ditch effort to get someone in. Often at times we saw maybe one or two individuals just making decisions on their own when it came to incomings. However, the new strategy is to work together as a unit. Everybody in the management team, everybody in that boardroom is having a say on these signings. They are coming to decisions together, and that is allowing us to have a much more thought out and analytical process. We're looking far more in depth at statistics. We're looking at players and how they could develop for the future. Of course, we've seen that in the profile of players that we're signing, very, very young players who can go on to do a lot better things with the club and further on as well. So it does seem that new strategy is in place. Is it going to work? George did say only time will tell, so we're going to have to wait to see how that one plays out. I, however, am much more expectant of the players that we've got in this year than that of last year. I do like to try and keep the all you need to know videos very positive. Of course, you know, you've got a new incoming, you don't want to try and highlight any of their weaknesses. However, I do feel a lot more confident in the players that we've brought in this time around. I could not find many weaknesses at all in many of their games, whereas last time, although I don't lie in the all you need to know videos, sometimes you don't want to unnecessarily criticise someone, and that could have been the case, let's say, for a couple of players we did bring in last season, but I wanted to try and get that motivation in, that support behind new incomings. Of course, you never know how a player is going to perform when you get them, so I do feel a lot more confident this time round, which of course is very good news. So taking a little look at the squad and the strategy, a little bit more now about expectations for the upcoming season. Now, of course, I think all of the supporters are kind of looking at least in the playoffs. That does seem to be the general consensus. Many people, of course, will argue that we should be pushing for that National League title. I am one of those people. I believe we should be within the top 3 teams in the division. I think we should be making it very competitive. I think us, Torquay and Yeovil are probably the 3 that are going to be up there. And I would like to see us, of course, come out on top. Who wouldn't? But George Edakobi did speak on that. He understands that there's a lot of teams in the division who may not have necessarily been considered top teams last year, who have received a significant amount of investment. I mean, you look at teams like Eastbourne. I mean, what they're doing in terms of some of their signings is really, really impressive and quite concerning from a Maidstone United perspective. Same goes for teams like Worthing, newly promoted last season, but ended up having a really good campaign, bringing in players like Luke and a couple others as well, doing good things there. So we do need to watch out. We can't take things for granted. It's going to be a really, really competitive season this season. So we do need to make sure we're not setting the bar so high. Don't get disappointed if we're not walking the league. It's going to be very, very competitive. Arguably the highest level of quality we're going to see in a South campaign for a significant period of time, maybe ever. It's not often you get the calibre of teams and individuals in a division like the South as we've got in this upcoming season. So, like I say, do try and hold on. Don't panic if it's not going 100% swimmingly right at the start of the campaign or halfway through. It's going to take time to adjust. It's going to take time for these new players to click. But, of course, I'm sure we're going to be all right. I think we'll do quite well. I do think we'll get playoffs as a minimum. I would like to see us push for the title, however. So that's George's expectations kind of set there. He understands it's going to be competitive, wants us to be in and around the conversation. Terry Casey did also speak on this a little bit as well. Does expect us to be up there challenging, does want to see us promoted for next season as well. Understood where he maybe went wrong with his expectations last season, but you do have to set the bar high. I mean, aim for the stars, you'll reach the moon. I think if Maidstone can make it that far, we're doing all right. So hopefully things are going to go according to plan. Of course, you can never take that sort of thing for granted when the going does get tough. So it's going to be interesting to see how the team does cope going into it. Now, next thing I'm going to talk about as well is going to be the new pitch. Now, a lot of people did ask questions about this on the supporters group, forums, things like that. Of course, it's been a discussion in recent years. It was something that was supposedly in talks over the last couple of years as well to be refurbished. Oliver Ash did answer questions on that last night. He did say that we're looking potentially to have it done for the start of the next season. Haven't got any quotes or anything like that, but the expectation is going to cost about £250,000, and at the moment the club does not have that money. Of course, last couple of years have been quite tough since those COVID seasons. Last season operated at a loss, so it's going to be difficult to try and raise those funds, to make those improvements around the ground, but they are looking at making improvements around the ground nonetheless, looking at improving that away end bar, of course, underneath the Jenko stand, well, not the home section of the away end, if that makes sense. So underneath the Jenko stand, improving that for both home and away supporters. Hopefully going to make that a little bit more hospitable, give people kind of a congregation area that isn't the Spitfire Lounge to go before and after games. So hopefully that does improve that match day experience a little bit for all of us as well. And of course, there's something big that a lot of people have kind of mentioned in terms of security. I don't want to go into the big details, but there was questions asked about the level of security and the stewarding. Of course, at games last season, we saw teams like Woking come to the Gallagher last season and all hell break loose. That was really horrible scenes. And, a lot of people did say last night that it's not the only time that's happened in the season. Quite often home fans are subject to projectiles and abuse and whatnot from opposition fans, and they're not often treated too well, and that was mentioned by Terry Casey in terms of how that's going to be looked into. They are going to be trying to liaise with fans a little bit more to try and make sure they're keeping up to date with how things are going on a match day to make that experience better and safer for everybody as well. So that is a good thing. We want to make sure the match day experience is enjoyable and safe for everybody. It's a family club. We're a club with a lot of youth who do visit the ground as well, and we want to make sure that these people are enjoying their time, they're protected, they feel comfortable with the ground as well, no matter where they're standing. And now the last thing we're going to talk about in this video is arguably the biggest thing that was mentioned in last night's congregation of the supporters evening, and that is Nathan Jeche. Now, Nathan, of course, has been someone of doubt in this pre-season period. We're not too sure whether he's coming or staying or going. A lot of questions have been asked. It was announced he was having those trials with QPR towards the end of the season, last season, and I thought George Edakobe went into some fantastic detail on this. I thought the way he handled the situation was really, really well. When he started explaining it, in my head I had an idea of how I wanted his explanation to go, and I think he hit it right on the head. Nathan's agent, who does also happen to be his father, has, almost treated Maidstone United as a bit of a safety net. He said, we're going to take Nathan for these trials. If they don't go well, we're going to come back to Maidstone and we'll help you guys out there. And George reiterated that Maidstone is not a safety net. We need people with 100% commitment, ready to go into a new season, looking to find their path through Maidstone United. It's a team that can lead players to much better things. I mean, Joe Pigott playing league football. Of course, you've got players like Jack Powell as well doing league football. Blair Turgott is going to be featuring in European competition next season as well, in the Swedish league. And, there is a pathway for players at this club. And if Jeche doesn't want to do that, that's his decision. And George has made that clear to them that, if you want to try and pursue these trials, then that's going to be the route you're going to have to take, because unfortunately we're going to have to close that door if you can't remain committed to the cause. So unfortunately it does not seem that Nathan will be returning to the club. However, I do think that something else that was important mentioned by George is that, we'd rather have a new incoming who is dedicated to the cause, very committed to playing for the club, who also possesses a great level of quality in a similar position, than risk waiting on someone, jeopardising potentially the squad in not bolstering in time, and then potentially losing out when Nathan decides to move on. So that is probably the biggest news. That is going to be a roundup of pretty much all the news. I think in general it was a pretty decent evening. I was a little bit underwhelmed in terms of my expectation for the supporters evening. I was really hoping for a brand new signing unveiled at the supporters evening, maybe two. I did think also that the new kit could have been for sale, but you know how these things go. We may not see the new kit for a few more weeks in terms of purchase availability, so keep your eyes open for that. I'm going to be picking myself up a new kit. I'm sure my family will as well, and a few friends, so hopefully you do enjoy that as well when it is available. But that is going to be all for this video. Hopefully you did enjoy this little roundup, of course including all the key information that you would have needed to know if you weren't at last night's supporters evening. So do leave a subscription down below, do leave a like on the video if you do appreciate the work we do here on this channel, myself and the boys, and I'll catch you all in the next one.